All right, welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something really fundamental.
Absolutely. We're looking at business activity.
Yeah, where it all kind of starts, right? Understanding the world around us, really.
Exactly. Think of this as your essential guide, the real bedrock of how businesses operate. We're kicking off the first part of our exploration into understanding the business activity.
Right, straight from Unit 1 in the source material. It's like we're flipping through a textbook together, but, hitting the really key bits.
Precisely.
Specifically, we'll touch on Chapter 1, what is business activity? Chapter 2, business objectives. Chapter 7, classification of businesses. And a quick look at Chapter 13, external factors.
And the main goal here is just to revise these concepts, get the context clear.
Yeah, build that solid foundation. And just
Oh, yeah. If you want more detail or other resources, the place to go is www.igcse-business.weebly.com.
perfect. But for now, let's jump into that core question.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Chapter 1. It asks the most basic thing. What is business activity? Why does it even exist? What's it all about?
Well, fundamentally, the source material defines it pretty simply. It's an organization
Okay.
that provides goods and services. And the reason? To satisfy people's needs and wants. Seems straightforward enough at first glance.
Needs and wants. Okay, that sounds simple, but I have a feeling the difference is pretty important here. What is the difference?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. Needs are, well, they're the non-negotiables, the things you must have for survival.
Food, water.
Exactly. Food, water, shelter, basic clothing. Without these, you just can't survive. And importantly, they're relatively limited, finite.
Okay, got it. Survival stuff. So what about wants then?
Wants are different. They're the things people desire, things that make life, better, more comfortable, maybe just more fun.
So like wanting a nicer house or a car?
Or holiday, the latest phone,
Yeah.
those things. Wants are much more subjective, they change, and they vary hugely.
Right, so needs are finite, you can meet them. But wants, I'm guessing wants aren't finite at all.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's the key distinction. Needs are limited, but human wants are practically infinite. We always seem to desire something more, something different.
Infinite wants. Okay,
Yeah.
but the world doesn't have infinite stuff, right?
Precisely. And that leads us straight to the core reason businesses exist in the first place. Scarcity.
Scarcity.
Yeah, there's just a limited amount of resources, land, materials, people's time and skills. Not nearly enough to satisfy everyone's infinite wants.
So because things are scarce and we all want endless things, businesses kind of step in.
That's exactly it. Businesses are the mechanism. They take those scarce resources and try, keyword try, to use them efficiently
Efficiently.
to produce the specific goods and services that people need and want most urgently at that time. They allocate resources in response to demand.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Scarcity drives it. Now, the source also mentions different types of businesses based on who owns them.
Yes, the purpose can differ depending on ownership. The source breaks it down into a few categories.
Like, who's in charge? Private people, the government.
Exactly. First up, you've got the private sector. These are businesses owned and controlled by individuals or groups.
Right.
And their main goal. Usually it's about making a profit for those owners. Think your typical high street shop or big corporation.
Okay, private ownership aiming for profit. Got it.
Then, within that private sector, there's also something called a social enterprise.
Social enterprise.
Yeah.
How's that different?
Well, they're still technically in the private sector, but they're usually nonprofit making. Their main reason for existing is social.
Social, like helping people.
Yeah, improving well-being, tackling environmental issues, supporting a community. Think charities, pressure groups, maybe local clubs providing a service. The goal isn't profit, it's the social mission.
Okay, so operating like a business, but for good, not just gain. Interesting. And the third type.
That's the public sector. These are owned and controlled by the government, either central or local.
So state-owned.
Right. And their objective isn't profit at all. It's about providing essential goods and services adequately to everyone, often free when you use them because they're funded by...
Taxes.
Exactly, taxes. Think healthcare systems, public schools, the police, fire services, those sorts of things mentioned in the source.
Right, provided by the public, for the public. Okay. So regardless of who owns them, these businesses don't operate in a vacuum, do they?
Not at all. They're constantly interacting with lots of different people and groups who have an interest or a stake
Yeah.
in what the business does. The source calls them business stakeholders.
Stakeholders.
Yeah.
So anyone affected by the business.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah. Anyone with an interest in how the business operates and performs,
Yeah.
they've usually invested something, money, time, their future maybe, and rely on the business in some way.
Okay, so who are these stakeholders? Owners must be one.
Definitely. Owners put in the capital, they want a return, usually profit. Then you have customers, absolutely vital. They want good quality products or services that meet their needs and wants at a fair price.
Makes sense. And the people working there? Employees?
Huge stakeholders. They depend on the business for their salary, fair treatment, safe conditions, maybe training or promotions. Managers, too, they run the place, make decisions, motivate staff. Their careers are tied to the business's success.
Right. What about people who lend money?
Banks, yep, financiers, yes, investors, venture capitalists.
Hmm.
They provide the funds and expect a return, like interest or dividends. And don't forget suppliers.
Ah, the ones providing the raw materials or parts.
Exactly. Or even services like electricity. They need prompt payment and regular business at fair prices.
And then there's the local community, right? Especially for bigger businesses.
Absolutely. The community is affected by jobs, pollution, local services. They have a stake in the business being a good neighbor, essentially. And finally, the government.
They seem to have interest in everything.
Well, they do. Businesses mean jobs, wealth creation, and importantly, taxes. Plus, the government sets the rules, the regulations.
Wow. Okay. So a business is constantly juggling the expectations of all these different groups. Sounds complex.
It really is a balancing act.
Yeah.
And it happens in an environment that's always changing. The source calls this the changing business environment. Things like competition, the economy, technology, society, they all shift.
So businesses can't just stand still. They have to adapt.
They absolutely have to adapt to survive and keep meeting those needs and wants as the world changes. Adaptability is key.
Okay, that really sets the scene well. Let's pause for a quick check. Just think about these for a sec. First up, based on Chapter 1, what's the main difference, the core difference between a need and a want? Think survival. Second, can you name one type of business ownership structure we talked about? Who owns it? Private, social, or public? And finally, who counts as a stakeholder? Give yourself just one example of someone with a stake in a business.
Good points to mull over. Needs versus wants is survival versus desire. Ownership gives us private, social, and public sectors, each with different owners. And stakeholders. Well, anyone with an interest. From owners to the local community. Thinking that through helps lock it in.
Definitely. Okay, so we know what a business is, who it affects, but what's it actually trying to do? What are its goals?
Let's move on to Chapter 2. Business objectives.
Right. Every business needs goals or targets. These are its business objectives.
Right.
And having clear objectives is, well, it's vital.
Why? Why are they so important? Can't a business just operate?
Not effectively, usually. The source points out a few key reasons. Clear objectives motivate people. Everyone knows what they're aiming for. They provide direction for decisions. And they help measure performance. Are we actually achieving what we set out to do?
Okay, so they're like a roadmap and a measuring stick combined. What kind of objectives do businesses typically have?
Generally, they fall into two big buckets. Financial objectives, the money-related ones, and non-financial objectives.
Financial, like making profit, is that the main one? It's often a main one, but not always the only one, or even the first. For a brand new business, or one facing really tough times, the number one objective is often just survival.
Right, just staying alive makes sense.
Exactly. You need to survive before you can thrive. Once survival feels a bit more secure, then profit usually becomes a major focus. Making enough money to satisfy the owners, giving them a return on their investment. Sometimes they aim for profit maximization, squeezing out every last bit of profit possible.
Are there other money goals?
Oh yeah. Some businesses focus heavily on increasing sales, selling more stuff. The idea is that higher sales can lead to lower cost per item, maybe a bigger profile, and potentially more wealth for owners down the line.
So boosting sales volume can have knock-on benefits.
It can. Another one is increase market share. This means grabbing a bigger slice of the overall market pie compared to your competitors. Becoming the dominant player has advantages.
Okay. And what about financial security? That sounds a bit different.
It is. This is often important for smaller business owners. Maybe they're not aiming to build a global empire. They might prioritize just earning a good, stable income, having financial security, and maybe a certain lifestyle, rather than maximizing profit at all costs.
So different financial targets depending on the business and its situation. What about the other side, the non-financial objectives?
These are really important, especially for, say, social enterprises or public sector bodies. But private firms have them too. You have social objectives.
Like doing good.
Pretty much. It's about making a positive contribution, maybe providing a public service well, being socially responsible, focusing on sustainability, or charity work.
Okay. And any others?
Definitely personal satisfaction. For many entrepreneurs, starting and running a business is about more than money. It's the challenge, the achievement, or, very often, the desire for independence and control, being your own boss.
Yeah, I can see that being a huge driver. Now, businesses operate in that changing environment we mentioned. Does that mean objectives change too?
Oh, absolutely. Objectives aren't set in stone. Businesses have to evolve, and their goals often evolve with them. The source highlights several reasons why.
Like what kind of reasons?
Well, market conditions are a huge factor. A new competitor arrives, customer tastes change drastically. A business might have to shift its focus, maybe from growth back to survival, or maybe focus on market share to fight back.
Technology must change things too.
Massively. New technology can create opportunities, like moving online, or it can pose threats. It might enable cost-cutting goals through automation or force a business to adopt new objectives just to keep up.
What about how the business itself is doing, its performance?
Crucial. If a business is struggling, survival becomes the main goal, right? But if it's doing really well, it might set more ambitious targets, maybe rapid expansion or moving into new markets. Performance shapes what's possible.
And external things like new laws, legislation.
Yeah, that's a big one. New rules on, say, environmental protection or safety standards can force businesses to adopt new objectives, like reducing pollution or improving worker conditions, just to comply.
And finally, things inside the company. Internal reasons.
Yep. A change in management, new owners with different ideas, even just a shift in company culture, these can all lead to a rethink and a reset of the business's objectives.
Right, so objectives are dynamic, always responding to what's happening inside and outside. Okay, another quick pause for thought on Chapter 2. Thinking about those objectives, can you name 2 financial goals a business might have? Remember the money-related ones. And what about a non-financial objective? What's a motivation beyond cash? Lastly, just one reason why a business's objectives might shift over time. What could cause that change?
Good prompts. Financial goals could be survival, profit, sales growth, market share, or security. Non-financial, maybe social good, or that personal satisfaction like being independent. And reasons for change. Market shifts, new tech, performance, laws, internal changes. Lots of triggers. Thinking it through helps.
Definitely. Okay, we've got the what, the who, the why objectives. Let's zoom out briefly now with Chapter 7. Classification of businesses. How do they fit into the bigger picture?
Right. This chapter just gives us a simple framework. It classifies all business activity into 3 main sectors. It helps understand the flow of production. We'll just cover the basics here.
Okay, sector number 1, where does it start?
It starts with the primary sector. This is all about extracting raw materials directly from nature.
Like farming, mining.
Exactly.
Really?
Agriculture, fishing, forestry, mining, quarrying, getting the basic resources out of the earth or the sea.
Okay, primary gets the raw stuff. What's next?
That raw stuff usually goes to the secondary sector. This sector takes those materials and transforms them into finished or semi-finished goods. This is manufacturing, construction.
Making things.
Precisely. Building cars, making furniture, processing food, constructing buildings. The source notes they make producer goods things sold to other businesses, like components and consumer goods, sold to us, the end users, like a finished TV or clothes.
Got it. Primary extracts, secondary makes. What's the third one?
The tertiary sector. This one's different. It doesn't make physical things. It provides services.
Services like
Banking.
shops.
Yep. Banking, insurance, retail shops, transportation, hairdressing, tourism, legal advice, healthcare, education. A huge range of activities that support businesses and consumers.
Right, the service economy. Okay, so 3 sectors. Do they just operate separately?
No, that's the key point here. Interdependence. They absolutely rely on each other.
How so? Give us an example.
Well, think about it. A baker, secondary, needs flour from a farmer, primary, and maybe an oven made by another manufacturer, secondary. Plus, they need banking services and maybe delivery vans, tertiary. A software company, tertiary, needs computers, secondary, which contain materials from the primary sector. They're all interconnected.
Like a chain reaction. One relies on the next.
Exactly. A problem in one sector can easily ripple through the others. They form the whole economic system together.
Okay, clear overview. Quick quiz time on those sectors. If a company drills for oil, which sector is that? Primary, secondary, or tertiary? If a company refines that oil into petrol, which sector? And if a company runs petrol stations selling that petrol to drivers, which sector is that?
Quick answers. Drilling for oil is extraction, so primary. Refining it is processing manufacturing, so secondary. Selling it via petrol stations is a service, so tertiary. See the flow.
Got it. All right, final section for today. Let's briefly look outside the business again with Chapter 13. External factors. These are things businesses can't control, right?
Exactly. These are events, trends, issues happening in the wider world that are totally beyond a business's control, but can still have a big impact, good or bad. We'll just touch on a few examples.
Okay, what are some big ones the source mentions?
Well, there are social factors. These are changes in society and how people live and think. Like the source mentions increased consumer awareness. People know their rights more, partly thanks to the internet, or changing demand patterns. Think about the rise of online shopping. That's a huge social shift impacting traditional retail.
Definitely. What else?
Technology, of course. New tech creates opportunities, but also challenges. It can make old products obsolete really fast, shorter product life cycles, and sometimes tech replaces jobs.
A double-edged sword, technology.
It often is. Then there's the environment. Issues like global warming, worries about resource depletion. These create pressure on businesses to be more sustainable, maybe find alternative materials if resources become scarce or expensive.
Makes sense. And the last one.
Political factors. Government decisions matter hugely. Is the government stable? Do they have policies that encourage business, or do they impose lots of taxes and regulations? Political changes can create uncertainty or opportunity.
So society, tech, environment, politics, big forces shaping the world businesses operate in.
Absolutely. Businesses have to constantly scan this external environment and try to adapt.
Okay, last super quick quiz for today on those factors. If people suddenly become much more concerned about healthy eating affecting food businesses, which external factor is at play? If a breakthrough in battery technology makes electric cars much cheaper, which factor is that? And if a trade agreement between two countries changes, affecting import-export businesses, which factor is that?
Let's see. Healthy eating trends fall under social factors. Battery technology is technological, and a trade agreement is definitely political, just linking the event to the category.
Perfect. Okay, that wraps up our first deep dive into understanding business activity. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have what business activity actually is, the whole needs versus wants and scarcity thing, the different ownership types, private, social, public, and all those stakeholders.
Plus what businesses aim for with their objectives, both financial and non-financial, and how those can change.
And then the classification into primary, secondary, tertiary sectors and how they're linked.
And finally, those big external factors, social, tech, environmental, political, that businesses have to navigate.
It's the essential toolkit, really. Understanding these concepts provides the foundation for everything else in business studies.
Absolutely. It's like having the basic grammar before you start writing essays. We really hope this helps you feel more comfortable with these core ideas. Maybe listen back, think about those quiz questions again.
And here's a final thought to take away, something to apply yourself. Think about a local business you know well. Could be anything: a cafe, a garage, a hairdresser, maybe even your school shop.
Okay.
Try to figure out which sector is it in. Primary, secondary, tertiary. What do you think its main objectives might be? Just survival, profit, maybe some social goals. And lastly, can you think of any recent external changes? Maybe a new local competitor, a change in online trends, a new regulation that might be affecting it right now.
That's a great exercise. Applying it makes it stick.
It really does. And remember, if you want to dig deeper or find more practice materials, head over to www.igcec-business.weebly.com.
Brilliant. Well, we hope this deep dive has been useful for you all. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll catch you on the next one.